Hey, welcome to Real Chat with Kat. We are here today with Judy Hartke, and this is a part of a new series that I'm doing as part of Her Heart Barn and Genevieve's granddaughter. I am very excited about this opportunity, and she is my first guest, and I'm going to introduce you to Judy Hartke and let her tell you a little bit about herself.
Hello, Kat. Thank you for this opportunity. I am an artist and a medium, and I own a holistic center in East Aurora called Willow Light. We have a number of holistic practitioners, and we also do classes on spiritual and holistic topics.
Awesome. And one of the things that I am excited about that I wanted to talk to you about is the spirit readings.
Yes, those are a lot of fun. I quit the day job back in 2000 to be a wildlife artist, and I painted for many years, doing shows all over the country, working with galleries all over the country, actually all over the world. And a number of years ago, I started getting into the spiritual realm, and I started experiencing the world in a different way. I started seeing energy that I hadn't previously known existed. And when I started seeing that energy, I realized the energy was actually not just a form, it was actually a personality. And over time, it ended up being, I was able to see people who have passed. So I combined both. It took me a little while. It should have been obvious that I could have drawn these people, but one day I'm thinking, boy, I wish I could draw a spirit standing there. And it was ridiculous. I was laughing to myself, like, duh, you're an artist. But I've never drawn people. So I struggled with the process to make it fun because I did not really enjoy the first process I was doing. I was actually looking at the energy and trying to depict it like you would be doing a model or something. If you had a model that stood there or did a still life, I didn't like the process. So I developed a new process where I just run the pencil over the paper and they actually appear like a Polaroid. I don't really have to actually work at it. They just show up. It's very, very cool to watch. I also have a camera on it when a client comes in so they can, really see the detail. And once the spirit shows up, I'd say 60 to 80% of the time they're very recognizable to the person, the client. Once we figure out who it is, we will go into the message because the spirit, that's where the mediumship skills come in. I will translate the energy that's coming from them into words, and they usually have a lot to say. And so that's a really connecting thing for my clients. It's just so much fun to watch um, the process for them.
And I'm going to go backwards a little bit because you said you do the wildlife paintings. How did you become so enthralled with wildlife?
Well, I've always loved animals. When I was in high school, I had won a scholarship to NYU for art, but I thought artists were a little too flaky for me. I also loved animals, so I had to really make a decision if I was going to go to NYU or go off. I ended up going to Cornell for animal science. They are very grounded people, farmers are, I went for dairy science. It's a very grounded subject. So that's what I was really seeking when I was young. I wanted to be in a very grounded environment. But a leopard can't change his spot. So when I was turning 28, 29, 30, I hadn't touched a paintbrush or a pencil or anything for all those years. I just felt compelled to start drawing and painting again and abruptly quit my job. I had a great career, just walked away from it and started painting. And that's how I got into painting. How I got into wildlife art was I got married when I was 22. On my honeymoon, I saw a painting of a sheep, a bighorn sheep. I never had put together animals in art before. If I had known that in high school you could do animals in art, I probably would have went to art school, but I didn't know that was possible. So, fast forward back to when I quit my job to paint, I heard about this guy named Robert Bateman, and he's a really well-known Canadian wildlife artist. Signed up to do. I actually had to apply to do a. It was a juried show to get into his one of his last classes he was ever going to teach for a week in Bozeman, Montana, and I got in. And spending that week with him totally cemented what I wanted to do. He was very committed to conservation, very committed to saving the environment, connecting kids to the environment, all of these things that I thought mattered. And it was more than just art for him, and that's the direction I wanted to go in, and so that's the direction I did for many years.
And they're awesome. And one of my favorites is the deer, and it has an angel in the eye.
Oh yeah.
And there's a
yeah.
little story to go with that one. Do you mind sharing that?
No. There's a couple of stories to go with that one. That was the first. That was my transition from just wildlife art into the spiritual. It was the first time I ever did anything spiritual art-wise. I painted the deer just like I always paint my old stuff, kind of tight, they call it tight, realistic. And I snuck a little angel in the eye just to have my little stamp of spirituality in there. And then I told the universe when I finished it, I said, I was getting into energy work as well. It's called biogenesis. The tools are extremely expensive. It was about $4,000 to buy the kit of tools. So I said to the universe, if you want me to buy these tools, you got to sell this deer for me. I put a price tag of $4,400 on the deer. I took it to the next show. The show started at 10 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday. About 10:02 on a Saturday, a guy walks in, points at the deer. He says, I want that one. And he says, the only problem is I don't have any money. I'm like, okay. He says, I left my checkbook at home. He says, I'll go home and get it. Well, it was a big show. It was a very hot day. I knew if this guy left that tent without that deer, he was not coming back. So I said, take the deer. I trust you. Come back with the money. He says, okay, I'll be back in half an hour. He did not come back in half an hour. So I thought that was one of the biggest lessons I've ever learned. But it was okay because it was cheaper than college. But 4 or 5 hours later, he did come back. And he ended up buying, not only did he buy that deer, but he bought several other originals. And he has spent tens of thousands on my work.
That's amazing.
Yeah, he's one of my biggest collectors. And he always tells that story. Whenever I see him, he's got to tell that story again.
Did he spot the little...
I told him
in the
about
eye?
it. Yeah, I told him about it. So became a very good friend. Yeah. And I went and bought the tools. As soon as I got the check, a friend had told me, they got me into this energy work. He says, if you ask for that money for something, especially these tools, if you ask for the money for the tools, if you get it, you need to go buy the tools. So I did, and now I do energy work, on the side.
Okay, and then one of the other things that I've done with you is the spirit animals, and I got the emperor penguin, which you said you hadn't seen one of those before.
No.
So what do you like about doing the animal spirit drawings?
Well, actually, doing the spirit art, drawing people's relatives that had passed away, over a period of time, I was missing animals. I realized animals were gone from my life. I was so busy with the spirit art world and running the center that I felt disconnected from the natural world, which has always kind of filled my soul and my tank. And so I started playing around with power animals. My friend Kyle Post is into shamanism, and he had actually taken me on what they call a journey, where you go meet your own power animal. It was a very powerful experience. And so that process was going on in my mind, like, how can I help other people meet theirs in my own way? So I would go into my studio in the morning before I start on nature art, wildlife art, and I would look at somebody's picture on Facebook that I didn't think would mind. Not get too personal, like not go into any deep stuff, but see who their power animal was, and I would draw them. And I was doing that for weeks and months to try and develop a process I was comfortable with. And then I started doing them for people. And what I like about them is they're less, I hate to say the word creepy. Like, creepy is not the word, but some people don't want to see their dead people. They don't want to see the people that have passed on. There's too many complications in the relationship, and they might want to talk to 8, but they don't want to talk to 2, so they're reluctant to come in for that. Another thing is people that have passed still have their personalities and their prejudices and their own filters, so we don't necessarily need to hear that either. With power animals or spirit animals, it's a more pure form of assistance. Mm-hmm. They're here for your highest and best. They don't have preconceived ideas. They don't have opinions on what you should do or what you shouldn't do.
So it's like a blank slate.
It's a blank slate, and it's very positive. It's they're not going to tell you what to do in a reading. They're going to, a spirit animal comes in and assists you with seeing the bigger picture of what's going on and choices you're making or choices that might be coming up. And it is the blank slate part. It's a little bit higher energy. It's a little bit more symbolic because they will bring forth the message of what they had in their environment or what they have in how they move through the world as an animal and relate it to your world. So it's people tend to be able to accept that message a little bit better than sometimes they can from someone who's passed.
And what are some of the spirit animals that you've discovered?
Well, I just did a penguin, or not a penguin. I've done a penguin for you, but I just did a porcupine yesterday. I've never had a porcupine. Oh yes, and it was a great message for this person. It was very useful for him at this time. It's all about, being soft on the inside, but having your quills out on the outside and that barrier. It's always that push-pull. I've done, so many different, deers come in. Some of the iconic animals, a lion, but also lizard, zebra, hawk. Falcon's kind of a popular one because it's got a very good universal message. Horses have come in, cows have come in, bulls have come in, a lot of cat species, and they all have a different message, whether it be a cat or a leopard or a lion or a cheetah, and a lot of little ones that you might not necessarily think much of or be aware of, but dragonfly, cicada, that kind of thing.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And then how does that work? Somebody calls you and they want to make an appointment.
Yes.
And then how do you do that? If they make an appointment, what's the time? What's the price?
If for the spirit animal portraits, it's $35. It's a 20-minute appointment, but it always takes a half hour by the time I finish up drawing. And they can book online through judithhartke.com, or they can call me up and book, or email or text 716-462-9174. I also do parties. Those are very popular. People that can get 6 to 8 to 10 of their friends together, and we do that. And yeah.
And what about the spirit drawings?
Same thing.
Same
Spirit
thing?
drawings are $50 for a half hour, $100 for an hour. Parties are great with them, or they can just book in my office, and they can come in and do that privately.
Awesome. Well, that's just a little bit. She's very multifaceted, and there's just a little bit. We wanted to just give you a teaser, and of course I want to ask some random fun questions. And one of the questions that I had for her is, what's your favorite candy bar?
It's probably hilarious because it's very boring, but it's the plain Hershey's chocolate. I love Hershey's over all other chocolate because it's a little sweeter.
Okay. There's no judgment.
Yeah.
I
of
like
course,
chocolate.
you are the least judgy person.
I'll take chocolate in just about any
I
form.
like simple. Yep. I like chocolate and simple.
Okay, and then what's your favorite time of day and why?
Well, it depends on my stage of life. Right now, 8 o'clock in the morning, because my daughter's off to school. I slip into my studio and I have 2 or 3 or 4 hours of peace and quiet, and really no one's calling or texting or kind of, moving around then. So it's just me and my paintbrushes, and I just love that.
And what's your favorite color today?
Aqua blue. And it's funny you say today, because we've had this conversation, haven't we?
Everybody asks me, and they say, what's your favorite color? Well, today it is teal. I'm a big teal person.
Yeah.
And tomorrow it could be periwinkle. I like names, words, or colors that have very bizarre names.
Yeah.
Not your simple red, blue, yellow, because I think they're just a little more fun. And now we are in East Aurora, so it doesn't have to be in East Aurora, but what's your favorite restaurant?
Well, locally, it's definitely Teton Kitchen, or Teton Cuisine. I'm not exactly sure which one it is, but it's on Dick Road. It's sushi. It's the best. It's pure heaven. I told the owner last Sunday when I was there, we got something new. I said, if I ever know I'm going to die, I'm coming back here for my last meal, and it's going to be this.
Awesome. I love sushi, too.
Oh.
It's an experience. It's kind of like patchouli. You either hate it or you love it. There's never any in between. And then your best advice or your favorite quote that you'd like to share.
My favorite quote that actually is in my mind a lot these days is "We are all just walking each other home" by Ram Dass. I love that quote, whether it is a very joyful moment or a very frustrating moment, because when you experience those moments and you see the person in that way, that you are walking each other home, it's a completely different perspective on anything.
Wow.
Going
No,
on.
you got me. I didn't expect that. Say it again slower, because I'm old lady.
We are all just walking each other home.
I think I'm going to leave you guys on that one because that's a pretty powerful quote, and I think I love it. Can I borrow it?
It's Ram Dass's. It's all yours.
Okay, everybody, thank you so much for joining us here today. And I'm going to be doing this more often, and I'm going to get Judy again because she's multifaceted also. And I hope you enjoyed and have the most fantastic rest of your day. Bye.